Hey y'all, welcome to the Back to the Hill Yeah podcast. I am your host Majaya. I have here today my guest T Till. If y'all haven't watched our video, we definitely just did a podcast. I was a guest on his show, so I now have him here with me. I'm excited. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Very excited. Thank you for having me. Definitely appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on my show too as well. We had a really good show, so thank you.
Yes, and also y'all, he got me on video, so this is my very first podcast video. I'm excited about it. Nervous, but we gonna get through this. Very
Yes,
transparent on this show.
yes.
All right, so T Tail is a certified life coach. He's a podcaster, and also we have something else in common, which is being a mental health advocate. So in this episode, I'm really focusing on mental health and healing as being a black man. Also, just how you got through those difficult times in your life dealing with mental health. How was your support in that time? We'll really dive into, where you came from, where you started at, up until now. So my
Mhm.
first question to just get everything kicked off is, tell us about you. What do you want my guests to know about you?
Oh
My
man. I'm born and raised in Queens, New York.
okay.
And just relocated to the West Coast. But a little bit about me. I've grown up. Two-parent household. And mental health, especially growing up, wasn't a big thing, right?
Mm-mm.
It was taboo. You know, grew up in the Christian world too, and obviously, definitely wasn't a big topic, especially back in the day. And but I've realized throughout my journey, that especially with men, we suffer in silence a whole lot,
Yeah.
and just going through a lot of my own trials and tribulations, that kind of led me to really caring about the mental health space,
Yeah.
and kind of being an advocate for men and women, to get the help that they need, for their own life and things like that. And I have a passion for helping people. I've always had that though, since I was, since I was a kid. I just always wanted to be a help to my friends. All the way into high school, I would be the one that people call,
Oh,
and run up my mom's phone bill, and she would be so upset. Um,
that could be a good
you
and a
know,
bad thing, but go ahead.
oh no,
Being a helper.
no, back then the phone was a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Back
yeah, there
then.
wasn't no call,
9 o'clock.
waiting. We had to call the house.
Yeah.
A little different. But yeah, so yeah, so I've just been a support for people for a very long time, and you know, always on my mental health journey, and learned a lot down through the years, So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and how I got started a little bit. But yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you for getting letting us get to know you. I am a straightforward on my podcast. I'm just straightforward. So my first
yeah,
question to you is, what exactly led you to become a mental health advocate? I don't think that's just something you a title you just claim. Like, we
yeah,
have something in our lives that made us more want to become more educated within that population, want to advocate for these people who don't know what it is that they're experiencing or where to go. What happened in your life that made you want to become the voice for this population of people?
yeah. The one thing about trauma is everybody's different. They have different
Hmm.
experiences. Part of my trauma came from always seeing my parents sick. Um, you know, my dad, he had, when I got out of high school, he had lung cancer. My mom had breast cancer when I was a kid. Um, then my dad had lung cancer, uh, then leukemia. Um, and then my mom,
Sorry.
had a brain aneurysm, uh, 2013. Um, and then my dad passed away from colon cancer. So my dad had about three different cancers, in his life. And, from a person who never really caught a cold. Um, but he ended up with, these ailments, and then my mom having her ailments. Just a year ago, she had two strokes. Um, and so
Ooh, that's a
just
lot.
seeing, yeah, so just seeing a lot of suffering, in my life. And I started to realize probably 2014, 2015, I started to have some trauma, right? I didn't really understand it, to be honest. I think what that was probably about, I might have been 27, I don't know, 27, 28, around there. And my mom had aneurysm. My dad was in the hospital, chemo, a lot of just different things like that.
Mm.
And I started to realize, I was angry a lot, um, annoyed, irritated. And it was frustrating me to a point, man. Like, back then, how, I would release problems is I'd go hit a bottle of Bacardi or something like that. And,
Hmm. That's how you deal with it.
or you go out a
Temporarily.
lot, and
Yep.
I'm an extrovert. So I go out with my friends, party, drinks, do stuff like that. And, not really understanding, that these are things that trauma triggers, things that I needed to address. But having, like, when you're moving and shaking so much, and when you're in the hospitals 24/7, you're trying to make sure that your people are
Yeah.
okay, right? Like, you're taking care of business, things like that. Like, sometimes, like, you don't even think about yourself.
You distracted. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you come up with your own distractions, to kind of get you through life, and kind
Hmm.
of get you through the things that's going on, and so in 2020, the pandemic happens, and I'm sitting by myself, like, you know, we inside, and you got a lot of time to think,
Inside.
and I
Yep.
started to think about my dad a lot, and different feelings starting to happen. Um, that was right in the middle of George Floyd stuff going
Yeah.
on. I'm angry about though about certain things, and I start to just think a
Hmm.
lot about the things that has transpired over the last few years of my life, um, and thinking about my mom and my dad, and just the things I've seen, and growing up in a Christian household and seeing them be the best people when it comes to going to church, to having a
Yep.
relationship with God, and fasting and praying and doing the right things with life. And that enraged me, like, from the years of like 2014, and 2015 my grandmother dies, and then 2016 my
Oh.
dad dies. And just seeing the suffering of the best people that I know. And so I started to just read up on a lot of different things, about mental health. Grief was a big one. I was reading up on things about postpartum with women, and it really intrigued me, just mentally, and just to learn more about um, why we feel this. Why do we feel this way? Reading up on triggers and things like that. And so I would say, the suffering kind of led me to this space to where I wanted to know more,
Yeah.
because they were just things about me I didn't even really realize, the anger, the emotions, right? Not really knowing where to put it, right? Um, going to therapy, just things like that, right? Breaking
Yep.
down those stigmas. Kind of just, I wanted to
Doing
start
the
to
work.
just kind of break down those stigmas, um, of mental health, and then men in mental health, and then Black Christians and mental health. Um, it's a lot of layers, right? And and shout out to the women, because women have been going to therapy, for a while, getting that healing and stuff like that, right? But
Some
you
of
know,
us. Yeah.
yeah, some, and so the one thing, that I wanted to really do was just kind of just start doing the work on myself, um, seeking therapy,
Yes.
and doing the work, right? And it's always a work in progress, so you never get it 100% right,
Nope. It's a
because
journey.
it's layered,
Yep.
right? And just when you think you got it, something else pops up, and now that looks different than something else, right? And
Exactly. Exactly.
so to answer your question, because that could be a little long-winded,
No,
apologies about
go
that, but
ahead.
um I would say through the suffering of seeing the best people I know, um and the death, and the continuous suffering, and and not realizing that me seeing this since I was a kid, not seeing them in the best of situations and seeing them frail or seeing them sick and seeing just different facets of always being in a hot, like those things affected me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know it. Being a caretaker, things like
Yes.
that,
So
like
young at that.
right, and then having to continue to do so all the way until as an adult, right, and learning a lot about myself, but just wanting to put in that work, and then becoming an advocate for others because I know if I'm going through this, you know, all of us, a lot of us,
Yeah.
really going through this, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what led me into just kind of being the voice.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's a lot of like transparent information, and I know
Mm-hmm.
working in the medical field, I see so much burnout within care partners, the caregivers, and we don't focus. I mean, me as an individual, I try to help those who are caregiving for my patients, but overall, the focus is the patient. But the
Yes.
the caregiver is losing out on their life, their time with their children, or time with their, friends, and they don't notice these things because a lot of people are, I'm fine, no, I'm here. What do I need to do for him or her? Whatever I need to
Yeah.
do, but really, you are giving up yourself and doing nothing for yourself because every part of you goes to someone else,
Right.
and that's exactly when the mental health issues, the symptoms, all of that kick in. And
Yeah.
like you said, when you so distracted and moving around, you had doctor's appointments, and then you finally got time to be with your friends. So now you with parents, now you're trying to escape the feeling from earlier to go hang out with friends. And then
Mm-hmm.
usually those symptoms hit at night. Everything when you get by yourself, when it's still going to hit eventually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what age would you say that you finally knew you was having mental health problems? Like, okay, I'm something's not right.
I would probably say about 28.
Wow.
Um, but still not really knowing what to do about it. Um, just because I was consumed with a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
and
bet.
so that's really what fueled me, was anger, and things like that. Um, it wasn't until probably even a few years after that that I was like, oh, okay, like
Something
I might need
seriously
to,
going on.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
might need to try to figure this thing out. And don't even know what that journey would entail. But that's where the research comes in, the books and
Mm-hmm.
um, YouTube University, good books,
Yeah.
Google, and really just trying to understand myself and why I'm not at peace. Um, 'Cause I think that's the thing. Like when you don't have peace for a long time, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you yearn for. You start to understand where it's like, all right, like how do I get this peace
Something not
back?
right.
And
Yes.
and and it's really was multi-layered for me because it's like I was angry at God a lot, and people say, well, just go to God, and I was like, that's the person I'm mad at,
I hear that a
and
lot.
and I don't know how to, right? I know that's taboo. You're not supposed to say you're mad at God, but
No.
yes,
God,
I was mad at
God
God. Okay,
likes
I
us to
was.
be vulnerable. I hate when people be like, you can't be mad at God. No, God wants to know all of those feelings. He wants to know those
Mm-hmm.
feelings. He want to know because he already know how you feel. He already know what
Yeah.
you're feeling. And
Yeah.
back to what you said, 28 years old from high school. That's about 10 years of you dealing with the mental health issues you were dealing with. Going through
Yeah. Yeah.
life,
Mm-hmm.
self healing, as you would say. So being social with friends or trying to just get through life the
Mm-hmm.
best way you can, not living your life
Yeah.
to the full potential for 10
Yeah.
years. And then you say even at 28, you knew, okay, now I'm being
Something.
aware. I'm aware that
Right.
something's not right. But still, what's next? And as
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thankful that now we have social media and YouTube. Everything is more big on mental health now. But it's
Mm-hmm.
still, we have to go through that to find out, oh, therapy is out there. Like
Yeah.
why isn't not that available to us? So
Mm-hmm.
when you became aware that, okay, it's time for me to start healing. Okay, I'm in YouTube, I'm in my books, I'm learning about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
myself more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on safe spaces. Did you have that in that
Yeah.
time? Did you have who was in your corner at that time, and what what were they contributing to your life at that moment?
So when it came to mental health, though, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
mental
say a
health.
lot of people. Like, I think because I myself didn't really understand it. Like, I just felt like I was going through motions. Like, I'm going through
Mm-hmm.
emotions. I'm upset. I'm sad. You know, I don't really understand what's really going on with me per se. So I had people that would support me to talk to me. I've always had a good village, and I can honestly say
That's really
God has
good.
blessed me. God has blessed me with a really good village to bounce things off of. You know, and so I would say my friends were my lifeline and my village at a
That's
point.
good.
Um,
Everybody not
I've been
equal, so
yeah,
that's a
I've been
plus.
blessed to have friends since I was 4 years old. I'm still friends with them to this day.
Yeah,
30-year friendships, for 20-year friendships and things like that. That and they would be with me, at the hospital sometimes with my
wow,
mom and stuff like that. And
you need
um,
that.
I did, and I'll never forget one of my boys, one of my best friends. I was going through, and it was 2013, and it sparked something in my mind then when I was just burning out, hospitals and this and that, my mom, my dad, whatever. And I didn't really tell anybody. And he was like, bro, why wouldn't you tell me? I'm just like, I ain't trying to bother nobody. You know what I mean? Like,
That's the
I'm just
main
going to
problem.
move and shake.
We always
You know what
think
I'm
nobody
saying? And
cares. Like,
he
I
was
don't want
like,
burden nobody with my problems. Like, or
yeah,
we think people should know
yeah,
that we're going through
right,
something.
right. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, bro, use your resources. Are you kidding? And when he said use your resources, I was like, I never viewed them as resources, For me, I was always the one that's trying to protect them and to be there for them. He's like, bro, like he said, I'll be up there. And like that's when the circumstances even just started to change for me because, you know, he would, you know, take the night shift and be there with my mom overnight. Um,
Wow.
while I was there in the morning dealing with stuff with my mom and my dad. And he's like, I'll come through at night. Or then when finally when my mom and dad came home, thankfully, and he would take my dad to chemo while I tended to my mom, right? Like, so now it's like it's a different
Yeah.
flow, right? Like
Yeah.
versus me, like oh, and my brother, does what he can because he was out of state at that time, living out of state, whatever the case is. But he was coming back and forth. But it was like me being boots on the ground. It was just like, okay, move here, move here, move here. Just doing a whole bunch
Mm-hmm.
of that. So so I would say, just it took little steps in each part of like that year since 2013 of like, okay, this helps. Oh, okay, that. Okay, this is wrong or whatever the case
Yeah.
is.
Just fixing things along the way,
It's a whole
finding out
journey.
what's working, what's not. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
I
it's a whole
like that.
journey.
Use your resources.
Mm-hmm.
That's the podcast name right there. Use your resources. But
Use it.
seriously, I stress that a lot. That sometimes everything we need. I mean, most of the time we already have it. It's just that we don't know how to use it.
Right.
These Anybody that's in your circle, friends, family, whoever is close to you should be, if they can be there for you to party, have drinks with, hang out with, do all these
That
other
part.
things with, you should be able to go to them when you're having a problem, when you are mentally exhausted, when you need a safe space. And that's as you
Yes.
get older. Now I'm 30 in a couple days. I'm getting to that point
Oh,
where I'm
all
like,
right, all right, all right.
don't do
All
that.
right, all right. Now you're trying to age me. Okay, I understand. You're like, okay, all right. You like that
Seriously,
was old. I'm turning 30. Okay.
just saying though, as you get older, you realize like, what are we doing? You
Yeah,
gotta analyze your surroundings and who you
yeah,
are pouring into. Can you
yeah,
receive that back? And if you
yeah.
can, you need to use it. If they love you and they do everything else
Mm-hmm.
with you, they will rather you talk to them than to
Yeah.
go through this alone, or them you end up dead or something and they didn't even know you were dealing with anything. Use
Mm,
the resources you have. You have insurance, that's a resource. You have
yeah.
money saved up, is a resource. You have friends, you have family that love you and supportive. All of that's
You
a
know what I
resource.
realized?
So,
You,
yeah.
you know what I realized about that?
Mm-hmm.
People know this. They
I
know
know.
that. But you know what it is? we're so
Lord.
used to trying to be the one. Like, we got to be the one for everybody else.
Yep.
And that was my issue too. It's like, yo, I got to be the one. Nah, it's got to be me.
Yep. I gotta be
You know what I'm
strong. I
saying?
can't let them
For
see me like
everybody, for
this.
everybody. Yeah, I gotta be.
Me and my friendships.
Yeah. And if they need something, then I can be the one to provide it. But I don't want anybody providing that help for me,
Mm-mm.
right? And it's like, nah, man, that's not how village works.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And then we think like, what can they do for me? What if I tell them all my problems? What can they do for me? Sometimes just talking
Mm-hmm.
about it, you feel so much lighter.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't even need them to say anything back. You just need a space where you can release, let go. But first, I always say, make sure that that person has the capacity to receive that as
Yep.
well. Like me and my
Amen.
friend now, we get on the phone, we're like, girl, look, where you at right now? You got the capacity to hear what I gotta say? Because we've been
Yes.
through things where we would constantly dump, and we didn't know what the other person was dealing with. So that can
Right.
cause problems in your relationships. But everyone that's a part of your life should be a resource to you as
Mm.
well. We
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be constantly pouring in. After you telling me so much about when you started to now, it looks like you were always the giver, the person that
Yeah.
had to make sure everybody was okay, the
Mm-hmm.
person that showed up for people, that helper. And I'm sure you're the one that
Yeah.
they call when they're going through stuff. They feel comfortable for that. And
200%.
yeah, so it's like we have to learn that those people want to be there for us too. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stop. For some people, what I'm noticing and along in my journey is that we feel that automatically nobody care about my problems. They just using me because I'm the person they come to. They just using me. Nobody care about me. When really you never go
Mm.
to anyone. You never ask for that space. Or you appear to
Mm-hmm.
be this person that doesn't need anyone.
Yep.
We have to become more vulnerable in our spaces of people that we love, and that's just what it is,
Yeah.
especially with our black men and women.
Yeah.
We are so used to being strong. We are so used to strong is a compliment within the black community, and that's not for me
Yeah.
anymore. I don't want to be
Yeah.
identified as strong all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because then it becomes a label. So when you do need the help, you like, no, I gotta be that strong person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I sure hope you got some vulnerability over this time, that you're able to open them spaces like, look, I need to talk. But I know you're in
Mm-hmm.
therapy. Come look at your shirt. So I know you're
Oh yeah,
vulnerable
yeah.
in there, getting your money's
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah. Vulnerability is power, man. And I've learned to
Mm-hmm.
lean in to vulnerability a lot. And vulnerability can bless you in a lot of different ways. And sometimes even with men, um, when men go through hard times, a lot of times they shut everybody out, right? And including their spouse or their
Yep.
girlfriend and things like that. And then they end up self-sabotaging that whole relationship because they're going through certain things. And what I've learned is when you use your resources the proper way, you get the help that you need vulnerability wise. And therapy and things like that.
Yeah.
You have a good set of people around you. And if you have a good person next to you, and you're in that relationship, like that, right, that vulnerability
Ooh.
can open up a lot of understanding
Yes.
for her to know what to do, right? Even if it's just listening, right? And that openness and that willingness to communicate and expose sometimes your own vulnerability is power.
Yes.
And I know what people are gonna say. Oh nah, people, women will use it against you and this and that and third. I'm like, then that means you pick
You
wrong.
picked the wrong person. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because you out there sleeping with her. So at the end of the day, you should be able to talk to her, right? So again, that accountability piece of you pick this person, and if you
Yeah.
feel like you can't talk to the person that you sleeping with, it's on you, right?
True.
Um, so a lot of it is accountability and looking at yourself and saying, all right, so where do I start with this vulnerability piece as a man, right? And look at your circle. I'm not saying you gotta tell everybody your business,
Right.
but there's got to be some trusted people around you that you can talk to.
Exactly.
If you can party with them, then like where the safe space at, right? And if you cannot talk to the people around you, then you have to audit your space,
Yep. You got to
right?
do that
Like,
often. Really sit back
yeah,
and
audit your space.
analyze your friendships and your relationships. You
Yeah,
have to. You have to rate. I
Mm-hmm.
feel I listened to a podcast years ago and she talked about that. She was like, you have to rate your relationships. Like check in with them. Really
Yeah.
see, is this person or this thing going in the direction that I'm trying to go in? Are we still on the same level? Or are we kind of drifting apart but holding on by a
Right.
string? Like
Right.
you have to really
Right.
see who's contributing. You can't be
Mm-hmm.
the one that's pouring all the time because you're left empty, you're left feeling alone while
Mm.
everyone else's cup is full because you
Mm.
done gave all of you out. So I mean, if you don't have no one around you that allows you to feel safe, vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
loyal, that means you shouldn't have nobody around you then because you got too many useless friendships, too many useless relationships, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're probably stuck right where they're at and can't move.
Yeah. 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 And the funny thing about caretaking is you have a whole lot of mental health battles with that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
But those
sure.
aren't even your problems. Like
Nope.
yours, like your life, like yes, that's their, like that's a loved one, and they're going through, and you're trying your best, but then you have your own personal things too. Like I had to overcome a speech impediment. That's part of my journey,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming a stutter, right? Going through divorce, right? Going through job loss, things like that. Going through job loss while my parents were in the hospital. Just just a lot of different things that people go like. It's
Mm-hmm.
different. You know what I'm saying? So how didn't I need a therapist, right? And a bottle wasn't gonna help. And a lot of times, what we do in the community, we try to drink it away, sex it
Self-medicate.
away, work
Yeah.
it away, right? You know what I'm saying? And even this might be controversial. So these are just my views,
Go
not the
ahead.
views of this show. But we try to church it away. These are the facts, my facts. Like these are the things we do, right? And not understanding that these are all band-aids. And there's a time and place, of course, for praise and worship. So I'm not saying that. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the only thing
That's
we
a
do,
good point, though. That's a good
right?
point.
Like that's the only thing we do. We kind of get a boost on Sunday and then we back
Ooh,
on Monday. Like I can't get out of bed.
that church part is big because I was in that part. I call it era. I was in that era in my life where I was going to church because I know it was the right thing to do. I will
Mm-hmm.
go to church and be in there for the wrong reasons. I'm picking out this pastor. I don't like what he's saying. This not relating. This not. I'm just doing it because I know I gotta keep my relationship with God. Maybe something gonna change. But
Mm-hmm.
what was your relation? You had a relationship. I had a relationship with the church. It wasn't with
Mm-hmm.
God because when I leave there,
Mm-hmm.
it did nothing for me. I was just going because I knew
Yeah.
that's what I needed to do. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to go to church, but
Mm-hmm.
it's another thing to go because of your relationship, to build with God, to
Yeah.
understand what's
Yeah.
happening. So when we're going to
Mm-hmm.
church and you're just sitting there, you're really not getting anything.
Mm.
It's really not. When you go to church, you need to really sit and think, what am I here for? Am I here
Mm-hmm.
because of the values of my family? Because I know
Mm.
that mom and grandma raised me in the church and I got to go because
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way, they're going to keep in contact with me. Or are you going because you use this as a part of your healing journey? You're here because you know that this is what you need to get where you need to be to help build on your relationship. It's a lot. That's a whole other topic about just the
Mm-hmm.
church and healing and your relationship with
Yeah.
God. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I I was born in the church. I was born in the womb of the church. But for me, I had a relationship. Have a relationship. Growing up
mhm.
with God. I was both. I was in church. I had a relationship with God. Like just going through those things, right? I think, but when I got to be an adult, right, and I think
Same.
once I started to see, I think the suffering part, things started to really, I think, shift for me to where I needed something more,
Yeah.
right? Than just what I was doing. Um, and just also watching the people who I knew had the best relationship with God. Like my mom would be praying the house down 24/7. And so when I saw the suffering, and my dad was right along with it, right? So when I see the suffering of the people who I know that had the best relationship with God, it infuriated me. And it also made me say, man, wait a minute, do I want to continue down this road? Because is this gonna be me?
I get that.
Like, am I gonna end up like them? Is this what it looks like to serve God? Right? And that caused me more anxiety, right? Like I started to end up with like something called medical anxiety where I was all paranoid
Oh,
about my
I
own
had
health
that too.
24/7,
Yes.
365.
Struggle.
You know what I'm saying? And so of course, so these are layers, man. And so so it's just, it's just a lot of those just different topics and just different layers that you have to peel. And these aren't quick fixes.
Nope. It's a journey.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it took years to get to that point, right? And you have your own things that you have going on, and it's just you get to therapy and you're like, yo, I have to unpack all of this. It's gonna take a minute.
Yep. Not 2 sessions. This is not therapy is not
No.
something you go in looking for like an ibuprofen. It's not a painkiller. It's not something that's about
Nah.
to. This is something that's gonna hurt. It's gonna give you accountability. It's gonna give you awareness. It's not something that it takes multiple sessions, long amount of, especially depending on how much it is that you, like you said, unpacking. How much are you laying on the table today? Because it's one thing to pour it all out. Now you got to work with that therapist to kind of puzzle it all together now. Now it's a mess on the table. But now we're working together to kind of put this puzzle together, figure out how did this all contribute to the person I am today. And now that I know how this all contributed, now we got to find out what I need to do to move forward. And that's just something you cannot get from a friend. That's not something you cannot get from mom. Yeah, you can get maybe some of it, but when certain people play a part of your trauma, and it may hurt, you can't be 100% with those people because you never know how much they played in your trauma.
Right.
So now you're holding parts of you back because you can't fully get everything out in that conversation. And it's biases, and they know the old you. So this new you trying to become, they might not even like that person, that version of you. So this is why I'm all for therapy. And I like that you also brought up, because that was my question for you. Was your relationship with God tested? And it definitely was tested. And I can understand 100% why, because you say they were fully churchgoers. They had a wonderful relationship with God, and you like, God, you let my mom and dad suffer. You let them
and
go through all of this, and they praised you. They was there for you the whole time. So I know it took a while to kind of get yourself back to him.
Oh man, it took a minute. I'm talking like there was a part where I said, yo, I keep God at arm's length because he might be trying to kill me and my whole family. You know what I'm saying? Like just different things. Like I'm like, I don't want that for me. Like you start to really live in that kind of place, right? And the one thing is in 2020, and this is why it's so good to have Village.
Yes.
I had a really good friend who knew what it's like to lose a parent, and unfortunately, and man, talking with them, talking about mental health, talking about even their the relationship with God and things like that, and that helped me so much in my approach to even like say, yo, I want my relationship with God back. You know what I'm saying? Just having that kind of a friend. And she walked me through a lot of just different things, and she helped me out so much with those realizations, and just being there to just be a soundboard, and then just to share her experiences with me, because honestly, losing a parent is not a fraternity or a sorority that you want to be in. But sometimes those are the only people who understand. Those are the only people who really understand you, right? And how you feel, right? So really having the village too that understands, and is willing to hop on the phone with you when you're going through something, in addition to the therapy and things like that,
you need that. You need it.
It's priceless. It's super priceless, and I'm forever grateful. And it could set you up for success when it comes to now your journey with mental health and things like that. And and the one thing about me is I had a therapist before, right? And we covered a lot on, death and, suffering and things like that. But there was
Mm.
one component that they couldn't help me with, and that was my relationship with God. So now, current day, now I have a therapist who looks like me,
Yes,
and that's Christian based, right?
even better.
And so, and so now tackling different ways, to move forward, to continuously heal, in a positive way, and but also working on those relationships with God as well, um, is priceless, right? And so I
Yeah.
think these are the things I feel that people should understand, right? Like if you're struggling with your relationship with God, people are like, oh, you don't need therapy. No, a therapist can actually help you bring the relationship
Exactly.
back
And you
to
like
God.
talk to God. God is your therapist. You gotta do the work. God God puts his blessings through people. Your blessings come through people.
Yeah.
God has people out here that are sent to do his work. So if you got a therapist that's one black and Christian based, you hitting two two things at once. She understands
Mm-hmm.
the things you go through in life as a black man. Not only that, but now she can help you find your way back to God.
Right.
Or she
Yeah.
has helped you. So
Yeah. a hundred
that
percent. Yeah, and just going through just different things, right? And just because you don't go through something doesn't mean you don't need therapy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's just an ongoing thing. Iron sharpens iron, right? And and going to therapy, it actually just helps you kind of not bleed on everybody else,
Nope. Yep.
also,
Oh, yep.
right? But you're
Love
still
that part
getting it
about
out,
it. Exactly. And that's why when they see
So
this strong person, they wonder like, how you going? You got all this going on. How's you getting through it? Like, how are you making it through this? Like you didn't crack yet. Because I have
hmm
resources in place. I have
right,
been through life to know that I can't do this by myself. And I have
right,
accepted that I can't do this by myself. So you have
right,
to use these things and put these things in place because bleeding on people, honestly, that really, if they don't have the capacity, can make can break relationships. It can
yeah,
make people feel like,
hmm
dang, you always, always sad. This person is always this. Or I just feel like have your own mental health resources in place.
hmm
People are paid to help you. This is their
yeah,
jobs to
yeah,
help you, to give you the tools you need, to show you the proper medications that probably can help you in this time, to
right,
help you find a diagnosis so you can have a full picture of this is what, okay, so
hmm
this is what this called. Because
hmm
growing up for me, it was the same way. I had all these symptoms. I didn't know what that was. Like
yeah,
I had the same thing. It was a medical anxiety when I was going through
yeah,
my first my first period of having anxiety. I would have like feelings of
hmm
just thinking something was going to happen to me. I went to the hospital so
hmm
many times, got so much blood
hmm
drawn. It was like, girl, you are perfect. Nothing is wrong with you. And I'm like, no, ma'am, we need to
yeah, okay,
we need to ultrasound something inside.
yeah, yeah,
Or yeah, it is something inside. We have to
yeah,
understand that mental health is just as important as physical health. They go hand in hand. They give you mental health gives you real symptoms, just like physical health. So
yeah,
let's really start to coordinate the two. And like I tell my patients or my clients, like get right mentally, and then you'll understand physically what's happening. If you have a physical illness, you will be able
yeah,
to
yeah.
work through things better when you have a clear head.
And that's how I knew that something was wrong too. I think it was in 2018, man. I was so sick. Like, I mean, I was sick. I was in and out of the emergency room and just different symptoms in my
Mm-hmm.
body.
Ooh.
And nothing was wrong. Like diagnosed. I'm talking about like things and I'm like,
It's
what
like
is
you
going
wanted to
on?
find something wrong. Like something
Yeah, I'm
has to
like,
be
man,
wrong.
what the heck is going on? And then understanding, like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I think I know what's going on here now. And so, therapy can do so much for you. And I think when you mix it with your faith, it could be
Oh
even
yeah.
more powerful, right? But the one thing therapy can help you with communication too, because for a lot of people, when they don't get therapy and when they don't have those safe spaces, when they're in these relationships, the first person that
Mm.
they take it out on is their spouse.
Yep.
The anger, the yelling, the snapping, all of these different things. And the person's like, what did I do? Nothing. Right. But when you have a therapist, you're getting a lot of stuff out already. So by the time you talk to your spouse, it's, hey, hey, can we talk? Like, and it's like a different level of
That's true.
conversation
That's really true.
because you can tell your therapist, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm this and I'm that, like, or I'm sad, or whatever your emotions are, and you're working through those things. Right. So now when you have a conversation with your spouse, it's very different. It's calm. It's easy. Right. In terms of just being able to just talk things through and open up without the snapping, the anger. I'm taking out
Yeah.
my frustration on you because you're the closest thing to me.
That's
And a lot of times we got to start healing ourselves so that we don't attack our spouses, because I've heard it a lot. Oh, well, the easiest person to, bleed on and to attack, is the person that you live with, or your spouse,
Yep.
because they're the closest thing to you.
Or
But
your
it's like, what?
kids.
Right. But why do you have to? You don't have to. Right. And so how do we build healthier relationships with our children or
Exactly.
your spouse? Right. Sometimes it starts with the therapy, you know what I'm saying? And the accountability,
Yes. Got
right?
favorite word.
Because I know I didn't want to be the person, right? I'm in a relationship now, so I don't want to be that person to just take my anger out and yell or snap on people. I want to have I love communication and effective communication. I want to continue to do those
Yes.
things, right? So in order for me to continue to do those things, I need to get the help that I need continuously, um, so that everything is flowing in the way that it should. Doesn't mean you're never going to argue or anything like that, but it's just, but you can save that for the times that it needs to be done, right? Versus
Exactly.
you taking out your anger on this person.
Situation that didn't even need that much aggression. And I like how
Right,
you
right.
said that communication, you can learn communication in therapy. Also, and that's what gets me back to healing, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think you go from A to Z
Mm-hmm.
with healing, or A to B, and that's just it. I'm sad, now I'm healed. That's not how it works, because you got A
Mm-hmm.
to Z and you got these letters along the way. So you grow. It's growth along the way. Now you're learning to communicate. Those little bitty things that you learning along the way, and healing is what gets you to become the person you need to be. And therapy can provide that. Even getting your relationship with God right, that's a part of your journey. That's all in
Yeah.
the stages of healing. Getting your
Mm-hmm.
your circle right, because I feel that's very important, because usually that's the people we spend the most time with. That's the people we talk to the most. Are they pouring into you what you need? Are they encouraging you in
Exactly.
therapy? Because sometimes you could tell you gotta hide from your people you're closest to that you in therapy, because you don't want
Yeah.
judgment or them to be
Mm-hmm.
unsupportive, or girl, why you in therapy? You could
Mm-hmm.
we therapy. I'm your therapy. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I'm your therapy.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it helps you build successful relationships. Like now, I 2 years later, I'm with somebody now. We're able to communicate better. I'm able to verbalize how I feel without feeling like I need to attack this person, or but
Yeah.
that person also provides you a safe space too, because your trauma, that's when
Right.
trauma shows up too. It's a response. When
Mm-hmm.
you're so used to someone attacking you, you feel that when it's coming from them, you responding already rowdy. When really that person providing you like, no, we're just talking. Like, what's going on? I'm noticing this, and you're like, okay, you gotta get the triggers back down. Like, no, this is safe.
Mm-hmm.
This is a safe
Yeah.
zone. And
Right.
that's why healing is, I love it, because you become aware, you
Yeah.
become accountable, you are able
Right.
to notice that you're getting worked up. You're like, nope, we're not gonna let ourselves go that way. You know how to tone it
Mm-hmm.
back down. That's the steps of the healing journey I want people to pay attention to, so that you can encourage yourself, you can give yourself some kudos, like, okay, look at me, I'm able to identify these things. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I am growing, because 2 days ago or 2 years ago I would have did this, or this would have been
Right.
handled.
Right.
Lost my job today. But you're able
Right.
to properly handle things correctly.
Mm-hmm. And truth be told, if you don't know yourself, how can you expect your partner to know you?
Hmm.
And if you don't know your triggers, how can you explain it to your partner? They're not gonna know your triggers. They don't even know if they're triggering you, how they're triggering you. They have no clue. And if you don't know this yourself, then you're always going to be in the battle. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's best that you try to figure these things out, get to know yourself a little bit better, get the help that you need so that now you can have a healthier relationship with yourself and with others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to heal our homes, to heal our families, especially in our community.
Yes, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to break these generational curses. Somebody has to be the one. And
Yes.
we have to be the ones to teach our children proper communication. Even though in life we do have things that happen that gets us very worked up. As me being a single parent, I get overwhelmed. I have times where I yell and I'm like, you know what? I don't like being yelled at.
Mm.
That's a trigger for me. So why would I want
Mm-hmm.
to do this to my children? But it's
Right.
all a journey. And you'll have to tell yourself, okay, I didn't holler as much today. It's a little bit better today than yesterday.
Yes.
But we have to be the ones to create safe spaces for our partner, for our children, because sometimes I'm different from you. I was raised in a single parent household. I was
Mm-hmm.
raised watching one person do everything. So for me, it was difficult being with somebody that tried to control me because I saw women do all of this. So why do I need you to be doing all of this when I really don't
Mm.
need you? That's how I saw
Mm.
it. And that's bad because I was trained to see that way. Not knowing, but that's what I saw.
Right.
And we're going back to relationships, when you make your partner feel unwanted and unneeded and what are they there for?
Mm.
So back to what we were saying, it's all a part of being able to identify your wrongs, what you've grown
Mm.
from, what you're healing from, and constantly just moving on along and getting through each thing and stop thinking that healing is over. Like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I went to therapy one time. I'm journaling. I've been journaling 2 days. I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to let this bother me no more. That's a
Yeah.
problem. You got to know that is going to bother you still. And you may still react some old in the way that you used
Yeah.
to. But
Yeah.
it's
Give yourself
all,
grace. Yeah.
yes. And long as you're able
Yeah.
to have that awareness and accountability, like, okay, I ain't
Yeah.
have to do that today. That was the old me coming out again. So just being able to identify that, you could have handled that better.
100%.
Yes.
Accountability is key, and therapy will show you. I always say, therapy will take the mask off of who you think you are and show you who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not like what you see, but that's all a part of the growth, and that's all a part of the healing, right?
Yep.
And really, and the understanding, of you, and look, we all grieve different things, you know.
And grieve
I,
differently.
I always say grief is not just for death. Grief is for everything that's living. People, thousands of people have lost their job this year. People are grieving
Yes.
those things. People are grieving what they see on social media. They're grieving what they don't have on social media. It's like, oh man, I see this person with this, that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now you feel bad about yourself,
So
right?
yeah.
Um, People are just grieving various different things in life that they're not where they want to be career wise, job wise. um they may not, they have kids, and it's just like, man, like, I have kids, but man, I wish I could be doing this too,
Yep.
or I wish I could be doing this work, or I could be doing whatever it is that you think that you should be doing right now, so, and people don't understand that's, we grieve those things because
Yeah.
we think about those things often, right? People grieve what was, what's no longer here, and it's just amazing that how grief works and how it could affect our lives in
Mm-hmm.
multiple of different ways. And but it's just, the funeral, like, oh my god, it's for death. It's like, that's a part of it, death, yeah, absolutely, you know what I mean, but it's the other things
It's
in
all
life too.
grief. It's all falls under that umbrella of grief. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say, from me coming from having a 2-parent household for my kids to being alone, that you
Mm-hmm.
grieve like what you
Grieve
want, the
that.
life you wanted to give them. Like, you
Yes.
grief also turns into guilt because you feel like you could have done better. You feel like you could have did things this way. Or even if your parents, you probably felt like at once, I could have did more for them. Or knowing that you did everything. It
Mm-hmm.
goes you go through all of those different stages of grief, and sometimes you backtrack back into the previous stage when you think
Yeah.
you've healed, but you can go backwards sometimes, and we have to, like you said earlier, give ourselves grace and understand that
Mm-hmm.
this is a journey. It's not overnight, and you can do it. We are resilient people. We just have to
Yeah.
find the resources. I'm going to keep bringing that word up. The resources to help us keep moving forward. Everyone is
Mm-hmm.
resilient. We all can be. We have to find our strengths and build on those and stop looking at all the negative things. I just did a fast for 21 days. That helped me identify what was causing me to feel like I was not enough. Not even not enough.
Like
What was
food
distracting
fast?
me?
A food
No.
fast?
A
Oh,
fast.
about to
I
say.
fast from social media. No, 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 no.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
I was,
can't
I
do the
was like
food when I
21
love
days of no
food.
food.
And
I ain't gonna do it. That's crazy. All right.
no, it was like one social Instagram, because that's the one I was using so much, and I noticed I was on
Yeah.
there. Even though I listen to positive stuff and do stuff, it's still distracting, and you still
Yeah.
watch other people. You still, even though you think that don't bother you, it bothers you. We are human,
Yes.
and sometimes I had to pull back. I was so distracted with my business, my podcast. I hadn't recorded in 2 months. I'm like, you know what? No, something not right. And that's the awareness.
Mm.
Like, I gotta figure this out. And I did my
Mm.
fast with getting rid of social media and praying every day, kind of trying to figure out what was happening. And it let me
Mm-hmm.
know in that time that this is definitely my passion, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I wrote down so many
Mm.
topics, so many things I want to
Mm-hmm.
do. But also I
Mm-hmm.
found out, like, okay, you need to reevaluate a lot of things in your life, a lot of people in your life. You need to get back. If you're gonna get back on social media, I need you to remove all of this type of stuff. This should
Mm.
be your focus. It helps you hear through
Wow.
all the distractions that you had. You can finally hear what it is you need to do to get to the next level in your life. And
Wow.
I would I would say that was one of the best things I did this year. I would recommend that for anyone.
That's
It don't
amazing.
have to be
That's amazing.
food. It can be what works for you. Take away something that's distracting you from doing what you need to do. That's causing you to be very, I guess, lazy, procrastinating. Me, I
Mm.
was putting off a lot of important things and trying to blame it on all the other things and like those happening, when really I was on social media 2 hours laying in my bed. So that 2 hours could have went to something else.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
Healing
It's
is a
amazing.
journey, and it looks different for all of us. I
Yep.
might have to do it fast. You might have to just exercise and work out and find what works for
Yeah.
you. Everybody's the exercise, and that don't help
Mm-hmm.
me, because that's not you. We all have a different path to healing. We have to find what makes
Mm-hmm.
us feel good. When you're doing it, you're not thinking about what's going on. That's what fits you. It looks
Mm-hmm.
different for all of us.
No, you're 100% right. You have to do what's best for you, and
Hmm.
take your time to figure out what that is.
Yes.
Because we all try to do what somebody else does, and like you can't, like, even when it comes to physical fitness, it's the same thing. You can't do what somebody else does. Somebody out there that's
Nope.
been benching 400 pounds, and you out here just starting, you're gonna hurt yourself.
You're looking at
You know what I'm
page next
saying? So,
level, and you still at the first
yeah,
chapter.
do what you can do. Do what's
Yes.
best for you. So start benching the 40s, and then work your way up from there, because it's all a journey.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so important that we just be more kinder to each other, and really have more important discussions like this,
Yeah.
with each other. I'm all for the other discussions and stuff, but like sometimes I grow tired of the same debates online.
Hmm.
Who's doing what at the table, who's
Yes.
bringing what to the table, and you know the dating and this and that, who's broken, who's a simp, who's a pick me, and who's
It's
this and
just
that.
things that don't make no sense. That's not helping you get
like
anywhere. I got
like
rid of
we
so many
we
people.
arguing over the same stupid stuff, you know what I'm saying? And it's not getting us anywhere,
Nope.
right? It's sensationalism, it's clout, it's things to kind of get us going and spark arguments and spark debates, and
Yeah.
and and
And it stimulates the
things
mind
like
of
that.
people who are on social media. That's the first thing you go
Yeah.
click to see what's going on. And I'm like,
Yeah. So I think, we have a lot of other things to talk about,
hmm,
that we can build, right? And use our resources the proper way,
yeah.
and to just build in a different way to heal, versus harm. And that's why I'm glad that you're doing this podcast. I'm
Yes.
glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm
I'm
here with you
glad you're
doing
here.
this. So
Yes. And I
yeah,
also
yeah.
want to tell them about coaching. Like coaching is
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I see around a lot as well. Like I am also a certified life coach as well. So that was what I did before I became a social worker. And I felt like I really
Mm-hmm.
wasn't educated enough, didn't have much experience. So I went ahead and got my degree in it. But I still, as a therapist and a coach, I would tell you that they both are beneficial. The
Yeah.
coach helps you. Okay, now you processed your trauma in therapy. Now some people like, okay, the coach can help me sort this out so I can become who I need to be. Help me get rid of
Right.
these barriers, these blocks, and give me this strategy, this plan, just like a coach who's trying to help you gain muscle, lose weight, do whatever.
Yeah.
It's somebody that's on side you through this journey to see
Mm-hmm.
you become who you need to be. And we need one. Business coaches, wellness
Mm-hmm.
coaches. There's just life coaching overall can help you in many different aspects. So I thank you for doing that. And I mean, you're using your life experiences to,
Mm-hmm.
help other people. And that's what we need in our community and population
Absolutely.
overall.
Yep.
So I
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
So, to the last question I want to ask to
Mm-hmm.
leave this is that if you could go back to your younger self, and I'm talking about the high school kid that was helping take care of mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
still trying to have a social life, going to school,
Mm-hmm.
juggling all these things, or any man
Mm-hmm.
that's juggling a lot as a kid, we don't give
Mm-hmm.
kids go through a lot too.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to yourself or another kid in that time of their life?
Man, it's so tough because even as a kid, like you're so, especially boys, it's like they're
Mm-hmm.
so like like
You
we
go.
we just know everything.
Yep.
We can handle everything. We know everything. We're full of testosterone, fresh
Don't
testosterone.
want to hear
We
nobody tell you nothing.
yeah. We want to be our own man,
Yes.
right?
At
Even though
16.
we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I would just say is take your time. You know, because adulthood will be here before you know it, and then you'll want to go back.
Just get a
But yeah, I would say take your time and think about just different things, right? Just think about where you want to go, what do you want to do, and what kind of man you want to be, right? At that age, like I said, like, we just know everything, and it's hard to think sometimes that far
definitely.
ahead. But if I can, talk to my younger self, I would really say, hey, take your time, notice the gifts that God has placed in you a little early,
Mm-hmm.
because what you think is a hobby could be your career, could be the thing that's going to propel you to the next level. Um, because I really didn't even think about being a coach until I was 28, 29 years old, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I had these gifts at 16, at 15, right? So I would just say just pay attention to you and love on you a little bit more, right? Don't be so quick to be fast. Don't be so quick to just, want to just be out there, early
Yeah.
in life, right? Because there is going to be lots of time for that, and just be careful who you listen to. Um, some people mean you for good, and some people mean you for harm,
Yep.
right? Just be careful of your surroundings, your friends. Pick wisely, um, and just be more in tune with yourself. These are things that are so important, um, and that we don't really realize it until we get older in life. Like, man, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
I should have did this, or I should have did that, or I should
Been
have
the
did that.
things I said this, yeah.
Right? And really, if you need to talk, if nobody ever gave you permission to communicate, let me be the first one to give you permission to communicate.
Yes.
Because the one thing that my mom, well, I'll give this one to my mom. The one thing that she gave me, and she gave me many things, but the one great thing that she did give me is the permission to communicate and express myself. Period.
And I
As
think
long as it
as
was
a child,
respectfully.
you definitely need
Um,
that. You need to know
yeah,
that.
like she she wanted me to express myself. She wanted me to talk. She wanted me to be in tune with my emotions. She wanted me to be in those things. My dad was a little different. Military man was a little different. Um,
Okay.
you know, but my mom was more like, no, he gonna speak. He gonna talk. We want him to be in tune with who he is
Yes.
as a man because he's gonna need it one day when he goes off to school, college, or work in the boardroom, things like that. He's gonna be need to be able to express himself in a healthy way. So I was blessed enough to have that skill in my toolbox at a very early age. And that's why people wanted to always come talk to me. Right.
Mm.
So I would just say, express yourself, young man, in a positive way. Don't be quiet. Don't be muzzled. You know what I'm saying? Express yourself in the way that you need to express yourself. Learn how to communicate because it's going to carry you a very long way.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. I think that expression, that's a big one. That's good. And I thank you so much for that. I want to give you some time to really tell my guests about where they, I mean, my listeners, where they can find you at,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
what you have working, what are you working on,
mm-hmm.
and also let them know your social media handles and everything.
Yeah, yeah. So, first and foremost, just thank you for having me again.
Yes.
And so I have a podcast called Conversations of the Heart with T Till. It's check it out on YouTube
Cool.
and all audio podcast platforms. We're in season, I don't know, 4 at this point, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a great ride having some amazing guests on, just like yourself.
Mm.
But the premise is to talk about real things, and
Yes.
and we do. And the crazy thing is, I would say about 99.9% of my guests look like me, right? Sharing stories, right? And I just say that to say, there's nothing wrong with having different types of guests and things like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying that was important for me because we have stories.
Yep.
Like there, we have successful entrepreneurs, right? Like we have successful, not corporate heads. Like there are people in this world that look like us that can learn, and people can learn from us too
Yes.
and hear our stories and want to learn, right? So conversation with heart drops every week on Thursdays. And Yeah, I have a merch line and affirmation merch line. You can catch that too on my website at ttillinspires.com and check out the merch there. The IGs, so Instagram, it's T_Till_inspires, and same thing on TikTok. Twitter, it's T Till Inspires, just straight like that. And Facebook, you can catch me on Facebook too. Conversations of the Heart. That would be the page to check out all the shows, sometimes the clips and things like that. And yeah, I mean, you can go to my website, check out all the services that I do offer. Speaking services, life coaching, career coaching, things like that. It's up there. And yeah, um, I think I covered everything.
Yeah, well, I want to say congratulations too. You have been sticking with your podcast journey a while and been real
Hmm.
consistent with it. That's big. I just want to also congratulate you for being a voice for the mental health population. We need more people like us. We need more men. We need more
Yeah.
people that's really vocal and trying to help make a change within this community. I also want to thank you for being on my show and really elaborating to my guests the importance of therapy, especially coming from a Black man. Is they need to know this. We need to know it's available. We need to know how to access these things. And I'm going to always put more about this in the description. I'll add all of your information down there as well. And the book you recommended, I'm going to add that to the
Hmm.
description So once
An
again, I
amazing book.
appreciate you.
Oh,
I'm going by it because I love to read.
yeah, listen, if you got listen, that book right there for grief, ooh, it'll change your whole perspective and it'll change, man. I'm trying to tell you. But
Dropping
yeah.
it in there, so y'all make sure you read the
Ooh,
description. Right.
yeah,
Thank I really
for sure.
appreciate you coming, taking the time out to do this because I know you are busy. We all are. But
Mm-hmm.
whenever you need me or if I need you, I definitely reach out, especially to cover grief, heartbreak. It's a lot coming for my podcast. I have been trying to
Yeah.
stick to it even more. And the next season is going to be around heartbreak and healing because that is a
Ooh.
big part of what contributed to me starting. I've been wanting to do my podcast, but I think God put me
Mm-hmm.
through that so I can actually start the podcast. He's like, okay, now
Mm-hmm.
you got some things to talk about. And you got some people out
I
there
love
who
it.
need it because I didn't have it. I didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
space. So I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
going to get back to you so we can schedule that because
Listen,
it's a lot
I'm
to
there.
talk about. So
I'm
yes,
there whenever you need me.
I
Call
appreciate
me.
that.
You know what I mean? You always have access to me. And if whenever you need me to come on here and talk about that love and heartbreak and all those things,
Hmm.
oh, we can go.
I'm gonna
I don't know
text
if
you.
your listeners gonna have enough time,
They
but yeah,
better. This is something they want to hear. They're gonna be there. They're gonna listen.
yeah,
But again,
absolutely appreciate you.
thank you so much.
And congratulations.